How's it going, everybody? It's Pilot Flame, and we are back, and it's the most important, or arguably one of the most important, it's probably one of the most important, deadline streams of the FPL season. The first one, Game Week 1. We're here to go through what my team is currently sitting at, and I'm pretty much locked in. I don't think I'm going to make any changes. Every time I try to tinker a little bit, just doesn't look as good as what I currently have, at least in my eyes. But one thing to mention is play it your own way. Play it your own way. Pick the players that you want to pick, not because somebody else has them, not because they have crazy high ownership. Pick the players that you think are going to score the most points. That's what I would like to say right off the bat. But today we're going to look at my lineup. We're going to look at the watch list. I've updated that as well. We're supposed to do it last stream on the preview, but we've updated it now. And we'll just kind of take a look at the fixtures and that sort of stuff as well. I did my predictions earlier. I always do those on the preview stream for the predictions for the games for the upcoming week. So make sure to check that out. Those are over on Twitter as well. And we'll also be taking any questions for anyone that decides to drop by in the chat. And we'll take a look at their teams as well. And we'll also keep an eye on Twitter for anything crazy that is of relevance, basically. But probably won't expect anything too crazy. But without further ado, let's talk about Fantasy Football Scout. So, if you haven't heard about Fantasy Football Scout, I think it's not too late to still get a discount. I'm not sure if it's 20%, but I think it's close to it. But any discount's good, and the Fantasy Football Scout members area is going to help elevate your FPL game this season. It helped mine last season. Definitely going to be using it again this season. We've been using it for all of our preseason content as well. All the stats from the members area have been in those videos, so make sure to check that out. I have all my tables public in the members area as well, so check the link in the about section here on Twitch, or if you're watching this VOD over on YouTube after the fact, it should be down in the description below. It's also over on my Twitter bio. It's everywhere. Just it's in there. Make sure to go check it out. Sign up. Fantasy Football Scout's fantastic. It's going to help elevate your FPL game. Now, let's see what the team looks like. So, we got a bit of a different setup as well today. How's it going? So I tried to see if I can get the chat to work on the screen as well. It just didn't work out with the new background that I wanted to go with. So we've gone with this setup. So I'll still, obviously, I have the chat off on the side. I'll make sure to answer everything that is in the chat, even if I have to scroll back up to it, as accurately and as quickly as possible. We got the league code just above. We got the little Pilot Flame emblem on the FPL website, as it were, watermark there, and then we got all of our stats and stuff that are going to be across the top for game week rank, transfers, and all that sort of stuff. I think that's fine. I think it's perfectly fine. Like I said, I have the chat off to the side. I can see anything that's mentioned there. I'll make sure that anyone who says hi, I'll say hey. Any questions you have, any teams you have, make sure to put them in the chat. I will see them. I'm basically going to be, when you see me looking across the screen like this, because my webcam's there, and the chat's over on my other monitor here. So I'll make sure to check out everyone's comments in the chat. We'll go through all of them. I love having a discussion about FPL, and it's game week 1. Gotta see what everyone's talking about. Also, before we get going here, 1 Gallon 08, Death Rose 724, Jake 2006, NFFC, Alrayan 11, and Anyan YM. Thank you for the follows while we were off air. Perisic is a risk, and I don't think he starts. Let's talk about that for a second, actually, because I think, so if you're going off of a lot of the Spurs sources, basically they're saying, or at least it seems to think, that Emerson Royale and Sessegnon have pretty much been the ones in the whole bib theory. For anyone that follows that or pays attention to that, basically what bib theory is they look at the training ground photos, and if you see like Harry Kane and Son in bibs, whoever else is probably in a bib is probably going to be in the starting team. That's kind of what bib theory is, and apparently Sessegnon and Royale have been involved in that regard. Me personally, though, I think you can either do one of two things. You can either stick with Perisic, which is what I'm going to do, because I think that even if he comes off the bench, because he will, for 20 to 30 minutes, or maybe he even gets a half, who knows, he's still going to be fantastic. I think he can come off the bench and score at any time. He was brilliant in the 70-odd minutes I saw versus Roma. So I think I'm going to stick with him personally. If he doesn't start, he doesn't start. We got Andres Pereira on the bench, who we know is going to start versus Liverpool. And it's perfectly fine. I think Perisic also can do very well versus Chelsea, which could be disorganized because they have to bet in their new signings and whatnot. And then I definitely want him for the stretch after the first two fixtures as well. I mean, Wolves, Forest, West Ham, Fulham, from game weeks 3 through 6. I mean, you'd think he's going to be ridiculous there. So I'm going to keep him. And I want to be using my transfers to be a bit more aggressive as well. So, like, as an example, I'm going to swap Kane to Holland, guaranteed for game week 2, guaranteed. And then I'm gonna potentially swap Kane back for game week 3, and then maybe depending on what we're looking at in game week 4. I mean, we're gonna captain probably Salah in game week 4 anyway, but maybe we just hang on to Kane there because he's a slightly better fixture versus Forest. Again, I think game week 4 is still up in the air, but it's a long ways away. We'll have more information by then, but that's kind of the plan going into it as well. The Spurs forum had Perisic playing at 84%. Yeah, that's another thing. There's a lot of people that do these sorts of like who they think is going to start, and a lot of people seem to think that Perisic is going to start. They think that he's further along than what Doherty is, because both of them I think had injuries at the end of last season. Perisic seems to be closer, and he looked for. I mean, Conte said he was not the Perisic he knows. I mean, Perisic looked pretty damn good versus Roma, but I don't know. He could be even better. So I think Perisic is the only one that would be like a risk per se in the team. I think everyone else in my 11 starts. And then I have Perisic, not Perisic, Pereira for backup. Or Andreas, let's say. Do I have anything in the bank? I do. We can actually check that out on the transfer page here. I have 0.5 million in the bank. And the reason for that is because in the event that, because I'm not going to, the second Man City play, I'm not going to immediately go for Haaland unless it's a situation where, like, hey, look, Kane blanked, Haaland scored $1 billion, Haaland's probably going to go up twice before, because of the amount of buyers, then maybe I go for him in that way. But if it's like Kane scored a hat-trick and Haaland blanked, I'm not going to swap to Haaland until the end of the week. So I want the 0.5 million in there. I want to be a little bit flexible. If something crazy happens to Perisic, maybe I go up to a 6 million. I can always go down to him as well because there's a lot of good 5 million options there as well. So that means I still have a little bit of comfort there. Because if, as an example, let's say Haaland and Kane both go up 0.1 million before Game Week 2 deadline, and I wanted Haaland and I have nothing in the bank, I can't get Haaland because I can't sell Kane for 11.6. He needs to go up twice in order for me to sell him to get Haaland, so if that's the case. I want Perisic, but that means sacrificing James, says I was. I mean, there's a lot of managers going with 4 at the back. I like 4 at the back too. I think 4 at the back or 5 at the back, whether it be a 4-4-2 or a 5-3-2 or a 5. I think 5-3-2 is probably better than 5-4-1. 5-3-2 and 4-4-2 are probably the two most common formations at the moment. I think Nico Williams is great value at 4 million, especially if Forest are going to be attacking quite a lot. Me personally, I just think that 5th defender spot is just going to be so good at 5. Like, Perisic could make a mockery of his 5.5 million tag in the first, 6 weeks. Easily. He could come on, score a goal versus Southampton. Chelsea could potentially keep a clean sheet in like a 0-0. Then get like an assist in the next game with a clean sheet versus Wolves. It's very possible. So I think that these defenders are way too cheap. Like Trent and Robertson, in my opinion, are the 2 most underpriced players in the game. I think they're way too cheap. I think Cancelo's probably up there as well. Reece James at 6 million is just basically like he's free in a sense. I know he's obviously not, but like I'm going with proven FPL assets, at least for my look at them. Ramsdale was a proven goalkeeper from last season, has the best fixtures in the opening 8 out of any goalkeeper. Trent and Robertson, 2 most proven Liverpool assets outside of Salah. Yes, Diaz looks great. Robertson is 1 million cheaper overall, and he's some of the points that like Robertson has gotten, like 186, 161 in a down year, 181, 213. Like these two guys are just the two most proven Liverpool assets afterwards. We'll just take a look at Darwin Nunez and Luis Diaz later on, in my opinion. I think Diaz is going to be good for now because Jota hasn't, he looks to be injured at the moment, and he could be the biggest threat there. Reece James was brilliant for me last season. I have no problems with him in there. Cancelo is Cancelo. Again, proven FPL assets, brilliant, and City are light on fullback, so Cancelo's just going to play. Perisic is probably the only risky one, but I think his upside is so crazy at 5.5 million that he could just be ridiculous. Salah, obviously. Martinelli, I think, is good value. I think at 6 million could be great. I mean, he only played 1,800 minutes last season. If you say you give him an extra 1,000 minutes and he gets, let's say, maybe 9, 10 goals, 10 assists from 6 million, that could be fantastic in a better Arsenal team. Pedro Neto, in a season where he had 2,500 odd minutes, 124 points, 5 goals, 8 assists, from a 5 million FPL asset, that's a return every 3 games. That's probably about what you're looking for, to be honest. He could potentially improve even more so, playing as through the middle, or off the left if Podence is playing through the middle. I think they're fantastic. Gabriel Jesus, I mean, he's been the hottest player. I mean, 76.67% ownership is ridiculous, by the way. Absolutely bonkers crazy. In 1,800 minutes last season, he just got 8 goals, 8 assists, so I can easily see that going up as well this season. And he just looks to be the best player in preseason period in the Premier League. And then Kane, again, proven FPL asset over several seasons. I mean, 191, 211, 224, 217, had a dip of 160, 158, but then 242, and then 192. I mean, Kane is just Kane, right? Kane is going to score some points. He has a very good fixture in the opening day of the season against a Southampton team that is changing to a different formation and might be a bit kind of loose, basically, at the back. Even though they're adding an extra center back, I might not know how to kind of sort that out. And it's a wait and see from Haaland. If Haaland looks like he does well, I'm going to swap to him regardless of what Kane does, unless Haaland gets injured, in which case then I'll just hang on to Kane and bank the transfer, and then it's fine. But that's my plan. I want to switch to Haaland in Game Week 2. He will be the captain. Bournemouth are ragged at the back, basically. So, again, it's a wait and watch for me. And I think Kane in a one-off week versus Haaland, more proven FPL asset, system that he knows. He's had the full preseason under Conte. Looks to be a better bet to me than Haaland for Game Week 1. That's not to say that you can go with Haaland as well. I think he's fantastic too. It's probably splitting hairs, and they might end up both scoring a goal and getting max bonus, and they end up with the same points. It's probably going to end up being the same thing, so don't worry about it too much. Ward is probably the best 4 million goalkeeper. I think he's almost the highest owned goalkeeper. For me, the goalkeeper situation, I want to go with Ramsdale because I think he's the best goalkeeper in terms of clean sheet, bonus, and save potential for the opening 8. Andres Pereira, best 4.5 million midfielder. Archer, best 4.5 million forward, most likely to get minutes out of all of the forwards, I would say, with 5 substitutions. And then Justice Silva is just a fun pick. He's low owned. If he potentially gets his place at 4.5 million playing in the number 10 for Brentford, he could be Eriksen's replacement. So that's kind of where I am with my team. Point 1, Ross Trevor 987 says 0.1 is the same as 0.5 in week 1, so I agree with the money in the bank. I agree. Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I think 0.5 million, I think 1 million, I think somewhere in that realm is probably good to have, and that's why when I did like the draft, so I'll show you like what I was doing when I was messing around with the 4 million goalkeepers. So like if I had Iverson in the team, what I wanted to do was get an 8 million midfielder. So I would have to sacrifice probably one of James or Perisic. Let's say it is Perisic because James is probably more nailed. We go with Williams as an example. We got rid of Neto. We could then go for an 8 million midfielder who could be Saka, he could be Mount, it could be whoever. And you still have 0.5 million in the bank. Oh, Saka's not on my watch list. So, like, that's something I can do. I can have 0.5 million in the bank, too. I can go up to Bowen if I wanted to as well, which is, like, really, really cool. The only issue is that I still want Perisic. Like, I still want Perisic. I also like Neto at 5.5. I think he's the best value in that area. Like, I think he's the best out of him, Bailey, and Almiron. So sacrificing him could like isn't great in my opinion. And again, if I was unsure about the goalkeeper, so I know that there's some managers that are going like something like this. So they're playing Ward in game week 1 versus Brentford, and they're going Sanchez after the Man United fixture because his fixtures are better after that. That's something that's possible. I think that's good as well. But me personally, I just think there's so much value in defense. I think the 8 midfield slot, I want to wait and see. I really want to wait and see because if we look at just the 8 million midfielders, if I go to 8 million, 8 million midfielders, sort by price. So you got Saka, who could be really good value. I think Saka might be the best out of all the 8 million midfielders, tied with Diaz. Maddison is still a bit of a question mark, and his fixtures are a bit mixed to open up. Mount could be very good. I do like Mason Mount, but he's kind of one of these players that kind of just ticks along. Nothing really too crazy there. Mahrez and Foden are definite risk. Kulusevski is potentially a risk, even though I like him a lot after game week 1. And then there's no other 8 million midfielders after that. I think the 7.5, 7.7 midfielders are all, again, big risks. I mean, Harvey Barnes was arguably potentially the best one, but now he's injured as well. So, again, it's a bit of an interesting one there. But yeah, if you're going with the 4 million goalkeepers, I think you go with the 8 million mid for sure. So, like, if you go Iverson in goal, like that's what this is something I would do. But do you want to go triple Arsenal attack? Maybe, maybe not. I think probably the most balanced out of all of this, if you wanted to. I'm trying to see if I can get the 0.5 million on the screen. There we go. If you want to make this the most balanced possible, I think you probably go for Mason Mount. Just because it just makes the most sense. Because Robertson's just going to be better value at 7 million, I think, out of any of the defenders, apart from maybe Trent. So that's what I would go for personally. Another alternative is that, like, if you didn't want to go triple Liverpool, you can easily instead of Saka, you can have Sterling and drop Robertson down to a Perisic or somebody lower than that. So again, play it your own way. Me personally, I just don't see any clean sheet potential from the Leicester goalkeepers. Like, I think Brentford score. I think Southampton can score. I think their only chance of a real clean sheet in the opening 5 is Brentford. Whereas, like, for Arsenal, as an example, they could keep a clean sheet versus a Palace team that has had a bit of a split preseason. Leicester without Barnes, they might not score versus them, possibly. They can keep 2 clean sheets here. Villa struggled to score goals. Everton struggled to score goals. And then, again, they have Brentford, but just in away from home. So, again, each is their own, to be honest. My dilemma is Walker plus Perisic versus Bailey plus James. Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those ones. I think Bailey versus James is probably better because you're looking at Perisic potentially being a slight risk early on and Walker being a risk slightly later on. Bailey can be a risk early, potentially like sooner rather than later, if he just gets taken out of the team. But Reece James, I think, is the most solid out of those, so I think that's kind of what you have to look at there. I would probably go the James Bailey thing because I don't really think there's much attacking threat out of Walker. Like, if you're going to go Walker, you might as well just go Ederson, in my opinion. Just pay the 0.5 more and just get Ederson. I have your team apart from De Silva and Bailey. Yeah, it's going to be quite common. I mean, a lot of managers are going to have Ramsdale. A lot of them are going to have Trent and Robertson. James is going to be in basically every team. So is Cancelo. Salah's going to be there. Martinelli's a great value pick at 6 million. Neto, Bailey, someone like that's going to be in there as well. And then it's going to be, are you going to have an 8 million midfielder instead of one of the guys at the back? So the most common thing is Robertson gets sacrificed. Diaz comes in. And then they have, somebody and then they maybe have Haaland over Kane. Like it's just kind of splitting hairs at this point. I think basically just go with the players again. Play it your way. Go with the players that you think are going to score the most points. Go with the players that you maybe enjoy watching the most. However, which way you want to play it. Don't just go and look at the the ownership and be like, oh, Gabriel Jesus is almost 77% owned. What if I don't have him and he scores? Okay, he burns you. But do you have other players that can maybe cover him? Potentially. That's what you got to look at it. So like those that like don't have Salah, who cares? If you don't have Salah in your team, you probably have Robertson, Diaz, and Trent Alexander-Arnold. They could probably all score a billion points too. Salah might not get anything versus Fulham, although his record says that he will get something versus Fulham because he averages like double digits every time he plays a promotion team on day one of the Premier League season. So that's a kind of a little bit of a stat to help Salah's cause, but you can potentially do well elsewhere. Like let's make a team right now. Let's make a no Salah team right now, because if you're making a no Salah team, chances are you have Diaz instead, right? Chances are. So let's put Diaz in there. Let's see what we can do. So if I have Diaz in there, well, I want 2 premiums because I want the captaincy. Let's see if we can go for let's see if we can get Son in there. We should be able to get Son in there somewhere. Yeah, easy. We could just go Perisic. Perisic down to Williams. Nico Williams. Make sure you pick Nico Williams, not Brandon, because I know they're right next to each other. Nico is the one that plays for Forest. That's the one you want. And then the 0.5 million, you can just downgrade the goalkeeper. You can go Raya. You can go Sanchez and play Ward off the start, or whatever you want to do. And bang. There's nothing wrong with this team either. You have nothing in the bank. And maybe you want to save $1 million in the bank. How do we do that? Well, we could, instead of Neto, we can go Bailey. And instead of Sanchez, you go Iverson. And if something goes completely wrong, like let's say, as an example, Salah goes mental. And then you're like, oh, I need Salah now. I want to captain him at home to Palace in Game Week 2. And he just looks way better, or maybe Haaland picks up an injury and something happens there. I mean, you got the $1 million in the bank. Yes, you have to use 2 free transfers because you can't do it direct. So if you didn't start with Diaz, then you could do it in 1. But again, there's still the option there. Also, when starting with, so let's say you only have the 0.5 million in the bank again. I'll just put Sanchez back in here. If you only have the 0.5 million in the bank, you're just not worried about Salah at all, because you're like, well, I'm going to captain a Spurs player at home to Southampton, at home to Wolves, at home to Fulham. So that's game weeks 1, 3, and 6 covered. Game week 2 is covered because you got Man City at home to Bournemouth. You could potentially captain the Spurs player away to Forest, or even at home, City at home to Crystal Palace. Game week 5 is West Ham away, but City play Forest at home. So again, you got to cover between City and Palace in the opening 6. So what you can do is you can then choose. Do I want Son to be removed for De Bruyne, or do I want Kane to be removed for Haaland? And that kind of plays twofold. One, is Son better against Chelsea than Kane is? Probably. Because Chelsea are probably going to have the majority or most of the ball. They're going to be pressed high up the pitch because Tuchel likes to play that way. Is Son better in behind? Yeah, he probably is. So that's something you can kind of consider. And then you could swap them back after the fact. And just play the hokey-cokey, as it were. The swapping around the premiums. Again, it's you could do a bunch of different things. I think this season more than ever is, if things go wrong, basically, if they go wrong, you have a wild card, and then you also have the wild card during the World Cup as well. So, I think it's fine. I think it's fine. Should I go Ederson plus Gabriel with 0.5 million in the bank, or Ramsdale and Diaz with 0.0 in the bank? So, I think personally, Ramsdale is slightly better value than Ederson because of save potential. He's probably going to face more shots than Ederson will. He'll rack up more bonus points because of that, or at least his BPS will be higher. I think clean sheet potential. Let's take a look at the City's fixtures. So if I'm City, who am I expecting to keep a clean sheet against? Probably 1, 2, 3, probably 4. I'd probably say half of them. Probably in the opening 8. If I'm Arsenal, probably 1, 2, 3, maybe 4, maybe 5, 4 or 5. So probably similar number of clean sheets. But Ramsdale's probably going to face more saves, and if he gets a clean sheet versus Leicester or Crystal Palace in a closer victory, he could be up there still. So I think that's close. I think Ramsdale probably just edges it. Gabriel versus Diaz. I think Gabriel's better value. He costs 1 million less. You have the 0.5 million in the bank as well. That's another thing that's also valuable. Also another thing to note, Gabriel plays against Crystal Palace and Leicester. Gabriel's fantastic on set pieces in the air. And both of those teams were terrible defending set pieces last season. Like, the stats showed that Crystal Palace should have been way better, but their set pieces let them down. And Leicester, we know their set piece was... I mean, it felt like they scored a set piece goal every time they played. The only difference would be, obviously, with Gabriel. And this is the case with Diaz as well. And Ederson and Ramsdale, even. If they're your third Arsenal or City player, just keep that in mind. That you know that you have 3 players from that team. So I would rather have Ederson and Gabriel, have Cancelo, and then move to Holland or start with Holland in your team. Some guy called Casper, like Casper Schmeichel. So yeah, I would go with Ederson and Gabriel because Ederson is probably slightly worse value than Ramsdale, but Gabriel is better because he's $1 million cheaper. His fixtures in the opening part, he might not keep a clean sheet, but he's got the set piece threat against those teams that are poor defensively. And you have the 0.5 million in the bank that if in Gameweek 3, you know, Arsenal's defense isn't looking all that, you can upgrade him to Perisic. Plain and simple, because if Perisic isn't great in the opening 2, he's going to come down, and then you could just upgrade to him. Pretty simple. So that's why I like that. So like I could do that too, technically, if I wanted to. I could downgrade Perisic to Gabriel, and then change out Ramsdale for Ederson. It's just a matter of, do I potentially want to keep my third City slot open? That's possible as well. With my current setup, the only third City slot that I'd be looking at would be like who would be the nailed-on defender in the team. It's looking like Diaz, but I'm kind of interested. Like, I know Laporte's not back, but maybe I move for him later when he comes back in September. Maybe wildcard into him, whatever it may be. So like that's a change that I could do as well instead of Perisic. But I think Perisic is such good value. Like I think Perisic in terms of value versus Gabriel or value versus Diaz, like I don't even think it's close. I genuinely think so. These guys on the screen that you see here could potentially be the 5 best defenders in the game. Perisic could score the most goals out of all of them because he just does, right? That Perisic just scores goals for a living. Like, let me bring up Perisic's stats all the time. Let's see. So Perisic has played... So I'm just going to add up the... I'm going to do some quick maths here. So he played 206 Serie A games. He played 133 Bundesliga games. And then I'm going to add the Champions League games as well. He played 40 Champions League games. So he played 379 Champions League games. In that time, he scored 49 goals in Serie A, 31 goals in the Bundesliga, and 4 goals in the Champions League. Divide that by 379. That's an expected goal of basically just under a goal every 4 games. Which is it's crazy. If it's a goal just under every 4 games, let's say he scores a goal every 5 games. A goal every 5 games is what, 38 games in the Premier League? You're looking at 6 goals from a defender? that could be on the third best team clean sheet wise. Could be pretty good. And he might even get more. Like if his variance is just slightly higher, he might even get more. Like it's crazy. Just looking at a few things on Twitter to see if there's anything of note. Don't see anything else. Fadoski2 says, help! Kulusevski, Saka, or Diaz? Which one? Right. So, this is my thinking. They all have the pros and cons, right? If you have... so let's do Saka first. Excuse me. If you have Saka, or you want Saka out of the three, right? Saka is potentially your second or third Arsenal player, because mostly everyone has Jesus based on his ownership, right? Saka is arguably Arsenal's second most important player. But he also costs 8 million, and he has an alternative in Martinelli for the time being that could replace him. So you can say that potentially Saka is the third most valuable FPL asset as it stands on surface value. We have yet to see Arsenal obviously play a game in the Premier League yet, but it seems that way. Yeah, so Fatowski says he has Jesus and Martinelli. Makes sense. A lot of managers do, and I don't blame you. So it would be your third Arsenal player. So do you want to have 3 Arsenal players? Do you want to lock yourself into that? Or do you want to potentially have an Arsenal player for clean sheets later? Maybe you want a Gabriel. Maybe you want a Ramsdale. Maybe you want something like that later on, potentially. Or you want to move to it. Maybe you're going for like a 2-week punt on a defender, like a Trippier, and then you move to Gabriel afterwards. Maybe that's something you want to have in your back pocket. That would be my concern with Saka, and the fact that he has 2 million additional on his price tag than the likes of Martinelli. And yeah, the third thing would be is you're tripling up on an Arsenal attack that in the first 2 fixtures aren't necessarily the best fixtures for them. Afterwards is perfectly fine, and I think that's fine. That's kind of my argument against Saka. I think he's a brilliant FPL pick. He's probably on pens, most likely. At least it seems that way, although there's still some speculation because of who gets taken down in the box. So yeah, that seems to be something that's still potentially up in the air. Next one, Diaz. I think Diaz is the 4th best Liverpool pick. That's just in my opinion. I think Diaz is the 2nd best Liverpool attacking choice. If you're going for like him versus Firmino versus Jota versus Nunez. I do not think that Luis Diaz is a cover for Salah directly. You could potentially cover Salah with Diaz, Robertson, and Trent as an accumulation of the 3. Yeah, so you have Trent and Salah for Liverpool. Right. So if you don't have Diaz, that means you only have 2 Liverpool. That would mean you only have 2 Liverpool in your team. Which is, I would say that's probably the other issue. If you're picking between the 3... and Diaz would be your 3rd Liverpool player because you're not going to have Robertson, then I think you probably go with Diaz in that instance. That would be me thinking out loud. Also, Diaz's value, his price tag at 8 million could be just an absolute joke, by the way. Like, it could be as of a joke as is Jesus, right? Like, Diaz is playing for arguably the best team in the Premier League. I mean, man, definitely 2nd best team in the Premier League for sure. He played 900 minutes. If he triples that, he scores 12 goals and gets 9 assists for 8 million. I think that's still that's pretty damn good, right? But he's more nailed on right now because of Jota's injury, and the fact that Darwin Nunez came on directly for Firmino, because I think he's just completely different from Firmino. Like I don't envision a situation where they take off Diaz before they take off Firmino first. So you currently have Kulusevski, Perisic, and Kane for Spurs. Okay. So for Kulusevski, let's talk about him for a second. Because we can go through all of them. We want to go through all of them. We want to weigh up the pros and cons. Kulusevski is nailed on game week 1. Guaranteed nailed on game week 1 to start. Because Richarlison only competition potentially, and we'll get to that in a second, is out. 2, he has a brilliant fixture. 3, his fixture run is crazy good. And 4, you can move off him if you need to. However, I think if you're bringing in Kulusevski because you want Kulusevski and then you'll have a triple up on Spurs versus not having the triple up on Liverpool, I think that is probably the biggest basic pin on the board there. I would rather have triple Liverpool than triple Spurs right now. Whether it's Diaz, Salah, Robertson, Diaz, Salah, Trent, Robertson, Salah, Trent, Robertson, Diaz, whatever it is, triple Liverpool, if you have to choose between triple Liverpool and triple Spurs, I would say triple Liverpool. Why? They're the better team. Plain and simple, right? Diaz is less likely to get hooked early because of the fact that his competition in Jota is specifically injured, whereas Kulusevski, the guy, Richarlison is suspended, but Kulusevski plays on the right. If Richarlison's going to come on for somebody, it would probably be for Son, maybe even Kane. Lucas Moura would be the one that comes on for Kulusevski. Will he come on? Potentially. We don't know. Kulusevski was often the one that would get hooked around the 60-minute mark too. That's not to say that he couldn't play 75 plus minutes come game week 1. But Diaz, I think, is less likely to see less minutes than Kulusevski. So I think out of those 3, given your situation, Fatowski 2, Diaz is probably the best pick for your team. Because it leaves you the option to have a third Arsenal. It leaves you the option to have a third Spurs when you can kind of see the groundwork. Because maybe Perisic and Doherty are actually the 2 that you want. And then you want Kane to swap around with Haaland, maybe. Maybe that's what you want. Diaz you can always move off afterwards. Let's say Jota comes back after a couple game weeks, you know? Let's say Jota's back for the Man United away game. Maybe that's when you move him. Maybe that's when you say, okay, I'm looking at the situation here. I can move off him now. You move off him or you downgrade him a bit. Then you can go to Robertson after the Man United away game. Maybe you save the transfer there and you say, okay, and then you go. That's what I would do. That's what I would do personally. That's how I see it. But again, you could completely disagree with me. But out of those 3, I would rather have 3. Like if I had to choose, do I want 3 Liverpool, 3 Arsenal, or 3 Spurs? I would want 3 Liverpool. Because if Jota does come back, I can then move Diaz to any other midfielder, but I want him for the opening part. You have Salah, you have Trent. Diaz is... I think it's extremely close between him and Robertson. I'm going with Robertson just because he's 1 million cheaper, and the fact that he's a more proven FPL asset. But I think Diaz is also brilliant as well because his competition literally is just not there, basically. He's nailed on for now. Whereas Kulusevski, I think, is nailed on for game week 1. After that, it's a bit of a risk. Saka, it's, do you want to take yourself away from having 3 Liverpool? And the fact that, do you want to have 3 Arsenal assets? It's kind of a muchness there. It's more of a, I would rather 3 Liverpool over the other 3, triple up on the other 3. And again, after a couple game weeks, we could realize that maybe Perisic, Doherty, are the 2 Spurs assets we want, and then we only have a room for another one, right? And Kulusevski, if he has a good game versus Southampton, versus Chelsea, if he's not doing that great, he might get hooked early, and then he gets benched the next game for the Wolves game that you want him for. That's another thing as well. Whereas I think Saka, he's going to play. Diaz, he's going to play unless Jota makes a miraculous comeback, which I don't think is going to happen. Like if we just go look at Jota, August 27th. So he's expected to be back for Bournemouth at home, but they said that could be that could be for the Man United game. It could be earlier. So that's something to just kind of consider. But for now, yeah, I think Diaz is good. Out of those three, I would say. If you already had triple Liverpool, then I would say, like if you said, okay, I'm going to go Robertson, but I still have an 8 million midfield slot, however which way your team is structured, it's still possible. I personally like Kulusevski over Saka. That's just me. So that's how I'd rank him. Diaz, if he's your third Liverpool player. If you already have 3 Liverpool, obviously you can't get Diaz. I would pick Kulusevski over Saka. And that's just because I think Spurs' fixtures are better. And I think Kulusevski is a better player. From what I've seen. So that's how I see it. Let me see if there's anything on Twitter. If there's anything I can find. Don't see anything in terms of like predicted lineups or early lineups or anything like that. Yeah, don't see anything. Nothing too out of the ordinary. Iowa says, any important news the last hour? Not really. Apart from the fact that, yeah, there's doubts over Perisic and Doherty, but that was a couple hours ago. Apart from that, nothing really too crazy. I'm thinking of putting like above me somewhere. Maybe maybe I put like the time or a timer. Would be like, so we could see when the deadline is as like a counter. I'll see if I can shape that in somehow. Maybe that's a note for next time. Let me see. I'll just write that down. FPL deadline timer. Something we can go for. Philip McNally says Perisic doubtful ? He is apparently. Me personally, this is again just my personal opinion. I think that Perisic is a great FPL pick. I think he's very underpriced. I think even if he comes on for 20 to 30 minutes, he's still going to be quite good against Chelsea again. He could be very good as well. He probably will start that game. My thinking in my head, and I think there's a couple of people that have this consensus as well. Perisic needs match minutes. He played 70 plus minutes versus Roma. I thought he looked very good. I think Southampton is a team where they're not going to have much of the ball, probably. And if they do, then they're probably just going to get burnt, and Spurs are going to open them up anyway just because Son and Kane are that good. I mean, they literally did it last season where they scored like 5 goals and they had all the returns between them. And I think that Perisic, if you have Perisic in your team and you're thinking about benching him, just start him. Just start him, because if you bench him in your team and he does start, you're going to be tearing your hair out watching him play, probably. If he's benched, he's gonna come on, like guaranteed come on, unless for whatever reason he's ill and isn't in the team at all. Perisic will come on at some point. So I think I will take 60 minutes of Perisic starting, or 20 to 30 minutes of him coming off the bench against tired legs. Guarantee. I would love that. So that's why I'm gonna keep him. And then you definitely want him for sure for this run when he's definitely gonna be fit. Obviously, unless he gets injured. Obviously, knock on wood, we don't wish that upon anyone. But these fixtures is where you want him as well. So it's not just, oh, we want him for Southampton, then he just doesn't exist, right? Do you know Big Man Bakar's team? From the FPL Wire, I can potentially find that out for you. Let me see. I see that he posted something for Fantasy Football Hub. So I think he's got Ramsdale in goal with Ward as his backup. So I'll just do the transfer on the screen. So he's got the same goalkeepers as me. Same defenders. He's got Mo Salah, and then it says I need to subscribe to Fantasy Football. But I think his team looks like this, if I had to guess. Give me 1 second. So his team probably looks like this, I think. I think he's got instead of De Silva, I think he has Bailey. And I think he has... I think he had Haaland? I can't remember. He didn't sell Perisic. His article says he didn't. The one I just read that he just posted a little while ago. I think this is his team here. From what I gather. And then he's going to probably start Perisic, and he'll bench one of Bailey or Neto, I guess. Something like that. But yeah, his team's something very similar to this. Like the article he just linked. Yeah, so he has an article that was 21 minutes ago. For Perisic, it says, despite rumors of potential benching against Southampton, I still have selected Perisic in my squad. So yeah. I'm just reading what he said. Oh, did he change? Okay, well then, yeah. If he changed, then he changed. But he must have changed in the last 20 minutes, so... But if he did, and he got cold feet on Perisic, if I had to guess, he probably did something like this. Probably when Williams here, he probably had instead of Neto. Maybe he went up to a 8 million goalkeeper, 8 million midfielder, and then he put the two Leicester goalkeepers in there. I don't know. If he did change it, that's probably what he did. If I had to guess. If I had to guess. But, yeah, I mean, all things considered, I don't think there's really much in it, to be honest. If Perisic gets benched, he gets benched. I mean, we could see a situation where Trent and Robertson get benched. We don't know. It's possible. Anything's possible. It's football at the end of the day. Anything is possible. Opening day of the season, early kickoff. Salah, Robertson, and Trent go up against Liverpool. Go up against Fulham, sorry. Fulham win 1-0. It's possible. Spurs could get spanked by Southampton. City could draw 1-1 with West Ham. There's many different things. And then our FPL teams are up in flames. Then we'd really be in trouble. We'd be like, oh, what do we do now? Nothing went our way. It's guaranteed going to happen. You can't have the best players every week. You just have to be the most consistent every week. So you pick the players that you think are going to score the most points. Yes, there's going to be injuries. Yes, there's going to be suspensions. Yes, there's going to be postponements. There's going to be all these sorts of things. That just comes down to variance. Sometimes you're going to be unlucky. So, just one of those things. It's going to happen. Happens to everyone. To varying degrees, obviously. But yeah. So, just under 8 minutes until the FPL deadline. Make sure your teams are locked in. I'm pretty content with mine. I'm really content. I think the 5 at the back is the way to go. Don't really care if Perisic gets benched. In my opinion, I think he's perfectly fine coming off the bench for 20-30 minutes. Then he'll be ready to go for Chelsea. If he's benched in that game too, perfectly fine. He got 20 to 30 minutes, probably there as well. And then he definitely comes in Gameweek 3. Almost guaranteed. In the fixtures that you really want him for. The 0.5 million in the bank in this team is very good because it allows for if there's any crazy price changes and I want to take my time deciding who I want, then I have the ability to do that, basically. So, again, just running through the team once more. Ramsdale, I think, is the best 5 million goalkeeper out of the bunch. I was originally thinking Mendy, but looking at the fixtures itself, I think that Chelsea's fixtures aren't as good. They have Spurs, Leicester, West Ham. It's probably about the same as Leicester United and Palace, if you want to throw in that, but that's probably slightly better. I think Aaron Ramsdale's going to make more saves than Mendy. So, I personally think that Arsenal have a more likely chance of clean sheets. Also, Arsenal's defense is settled, whereas Chelsea's is not at the moment. They haven't played with each other, basically, for more than a couple games, if that. Trent and Robertson, I think, are the two best defenders in the game before the season starts. That's how I see it. Cancelo probably being the third best defender in the game. Reece James probably being the fourth best defender in the game. And then Perisic is probably the guy who's going to make his namesake for being the fifth best defender in the game, or potentially higher. Salah is the best premium in the game, just factually. I mean, 303, 259, 233, 231, 265. I mean, it's just bananas points, like just ridiculous points. Do I think Salah outscores a team without Salah in the opening 7 fixtures? No, I think there's definitely grounds you can make up on Salah, to be honest. I think if you go Diaz and then you change your premium in midfield to Son, or you have De Bruyne, or you go with the 3 forwards, you go with Kane and Haaland, with Jesus as well. It's easy to make the points or equal or match him, or even better him, potentially. I would say with the captaincy option, I know Fulham away is probably a good fixture for Salah. I've personally been to a game at Craven Cottage where I've seen Liverpool put 5 past Fulham, which is crazy. 2 were even before I was even able to sit down in the opening 10 minutes, which was crazy. I think it was 5-3. Maxi Rodriguez scored a screamer. And I was down one end of the pitch, and he was driving at the other goal, and you see him cane it, and the ball like swerved into the top corner. It's crazy. I think the only real nailed on captaincy shout for Salah is Gameweek 4, where he has Bournemouth at home, but there's also other good spots there as well. So again, each of their own for captaincy there. Fulham away, I think you can have Spurs. The Spurs fixture, Southampton at home, could arguably be better. Obviously, Fulham don't look to be fully settled either, so again, Liverpool could do well there. Again, Bournemouth at home there. He then goes away to Man United, which could be tricky. Bournemouth at home is a really good one. Newcastle at home, that's not going to be as good as Forest at home for City. Game week 6, Salah has Everton at home, where Spurs have Fulham at home, which I think is a very good fixture. City have, I think, somebody good as well. Aston Villa away is not bad. Yeah, so. Tempted by Perisic? Hey, if you're tempted by Perisic, then pick him. I think he's good. I think he's really good. From what I've seen, he's just ridiculous. Like, a defender that can score the amount of goals that he's probably going to end up scoring this season, assuming he stays. Like, if Perisic plays 3,000 minutes this season, I expect him to score 6 or more goals. Like, actually. Like, that's not even, like, a joke. That's, like, that would be, like, probably his minimum. It's, like, 5. Plus, like, how many clean sheets did Spurs keep last season? Spurs kept 14 clean sheets last season. Half of that season was under Antonio Conte as well. So, like, I'm going to do some quick math here. So, let's say Perisic scores, what? 5 goals. It's 30 points. Plus clean sheet points. So, it's 6 points if he plays over 60 minutes and keeps a clean sheet. That's across, what, 15 games, let's say? So, plus 15 times 6. That's 120 points. That's just 120 points just from him playing, getting clean sheets potentially in all of those games. And that's not even including, like, bonus, assists, potentially more than 5 goals. Like, his ceiling could be ridiculous. Like, Robertson last season got 3 goals, 11 assists, with 17 clean sheets, and scored 186 points, which is crazy. Trent last season, 208 points, and he only scored 2 goals, but he got 12 assists, like, and with 18 clean sheets. Like, defenders' prices in this game are nuts. Like, they're way too good. Also, less than 2 minutes, by the way. Just under 2 minutes. Minute 40. So let me refresh my team and make sure I got everything all good to go. Also, I don't know if anyone else sees this, like, this glitch with the team as well, where, like, the text goes blurry. They have too much media on this on this spot. Let me actually take a screenshot of my team as well. So I might freeze for a second. I'll put that over on Twitter afterwards. So yeah, 1 minute exactly. 1 minute exactly till the FPL deadline. 1 minute. Yeah, stick to your guns. Stick to your guns, Iowa. Stick to your guns. Whatever your gut says, go with it. Let me see if there is any changes. A lot of people have their teams locked in. A lot of the teams locked in. So we've got 10 seconds left. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bang! That's the Game Week 1 deadline. Play it safe. Play it your own way. Play a template, however which way you want to do it. That's the FPL deadline, as you can see up on the screen. Just before we sign off here, I'm gonna look at a couple of teams here. So FPL General's got his team. So he's got the 2 Leicester goalkeepers. He's got James, Trent, Cancelo, Robertson, Mount, Martinelli, Salah captain, Leon Bailey, Jesus, and Holland. With Williams, Andreas Pereira, and Plange as his subs on the bench. Big man Bakar, he did change it. He's got Ramsdale, James, Robertson, Cancelo, and Trent. Neto, Bailey, Salah captain, Martinelli, Holland, and Jesus. But he's got Perisic. Oh, no, he doesn't. He has Perisic on his bench, though. He has Perisic on his bench. So he did go with Perisic. He just put him in because he thinks that he could be benched. So, again, could be a bit of a stickler there. Let's see. Who else we got here? I saw Mark's team. So FF Scout, Mark. He's got Ramsdale in goal. He's got Trent, Robertson, Cancelo. He's got Walker as well. He's got Martinelli. He's got Son as his captain. He's got Diaz. He's got Saka. He's got Brennan Johnson as well, as he's a Forest fan. And he's got Harry Kane with Ward, Williams, Andreas Pereira, and Archer on his bench as well. Did he have Neto and Bailey in midfield? He did. He had Neto, Bailey, Martinelli, and Salah with Holland and Jesus up front. That's a big man Bakar had. Let me see. Because I know Andy. Let's talk FPL. Andy.
Why can't I click into these?
Apologies for the audio there. So Andy's got. So he's slowly revealing his team. I wish I should be able to do it. I kept this screen open. So on his bench, he actually had Sanchez, as I predicted. So this is Andy's team. So he's got Sanchez. He has James. He has Trent. He has Cancelo. He has 2 defenders, which he hasn't revealed as of yet. He does have Holland. He does not have Kane, as we kind of expected that. Midfield, he has Diaz there, which means that he doesn't have Robertson. So the most likely is that he has Nico Williams, which just makes the most sense. I knew he had a 5 million defender in there, so he does have a 5 million defender in there. And he actually went with Gabriel. Question is, who's his last midfield spot? This midfield spot is still up for debate. I mean, the Williams one he's probably still going to have there as well. Let's see. He's got Neto. Okay, so Neto is there. So he has 1 million. He has 5 million available. For his last spot, and he actually went with Walker. But he put Walker on his bench. So that's actually Andy's team. There. Oh, wait, no, he didn't go with Walker. He actually has Cucurella. Yeah, he actually has Cucurella. So those were the defenders that he went with, which is crazy. But he put Cucurella on his bench, so his team is basically, he's starting Ward over Sanchez. He's got James, he's got Trent, he's got Cancelo, he's got Gabriel. He's got Diaz, Salah, Martinelli, and Neto, and he's got Holland and Jesus. Oh, and instead of Archer, he's got Greenwood. So that's what his team looks like for the time being. So, yeah. Interesting stuff. No, he ended up with Cucurella, so he put him on the bench. He had only Neto. He didn't have Bailey. The team that you see up on the screen is what he had. So, interesting. Yeah, triple Arsenal attack could be pretty good as well. So, again, his 8 million midfield slot was Diaz. So, yeah. So he didn't go with Perisic. So yeah. But anyway, let's move over to Fantasy Football Scout screen one more time. So you haven't done so, go to the About section on the stream here or over on any of our FPL videos. Check out the Fantasy Football Scout link. Make sure to check that out. We are going to be using Fantasy Football Scout for all of our videos this season, so make sure to check it out. The members area is fantastic. It's brilliant stuff. Check it out. It's going to help improve your FPL game. Now, let's move over to the big screen. So, that is going to do it for our Game Week 1 deadline stream. Super stressful. Don't worry about it now. Again, you play it your own way. Game Week 1, there's always room to fix anything that may have gone awry in Game Week 1. Don't do any rage transfers. Don't do anything like that. Think of everything with an open mind. Be clear-headed. Enjoy the football this afternoon because Arsenal play Crystal Palace. I have 3 players in that game, so I would be potentially rooting for Arsenal, even though I don't want to, being a United fan. But we're going to go for it there. Yeah, just enjoy the FPL season. Make transfers out of logic rather than or statistics to back it up, rather than emotion. So yeah, thank you all for watching. Make sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And until the next one, take care.